If you ever watched any YouTube videos on how to get rich quickly, you will learn that they tell you you should use arbitrage. Well, I think that learning coding is arbitrage in that sense. Now, why do I say that? Well, it's because most other jobs are probably pretty difficult and hard to do. Yet once you learn how to program and code for a living, you get a job that offers you great flexibility, creativity, and money. What the job comes down to is building things, big things, out of composable puzzle pieces or building blocks, and a lot of plumbing of data through these building blocks to see how the data flows and where it arrives and what happens to it in between. It's a lot like a computer game. In fact, in the programming community, the game Factorio is viewed to be very similar to programming. My personal gripe is that it also becomes very annoying like a computer game if you're forced to play it for really long times. But then on the face of it, your job that pays a lot of money is basically playing a computer game. But let's dive a little bit deeper into how this works. So why is programming so flexible? I'm not sure. I think it's because when you program, your results are what matters the most. I'm not sure what other jobs, what they actually look like in real life, but I feel like there's a lot more vagueness attached to it. And in programming, that you can deliver output is all that really matters at the end of the day. That means there's a lot of flexibility in how you get to the output. You can work from home, you can work from 1 a.m. until 8 a.m. I mean, obviously there are some restrictions. It's not always easy to work remotely, and it's oftentimes your employer will value it if you work during normal time. But the point is that a lot of exceptions are made for you, and there's a lot of perks that are there more often than in other jobs. Now, why is it creative to code? It's because it's, as I said already, like a computer game, and there's more than one way usually to get to a given point. And on top of that, I'm, for example, a full stack developer, whereas other people, they really specialize into one area. And as a full stack developer, but I think this is generally applicable, there are a lot of different areas, a lot of different disciplines that come together when you build a solution. These can be the front end, where you have the architecture of the components, how they build up on top of each other. It can be how things look, the styling of things, animations. It's the backend, the business logic, how the database works, how the data is related to each other, all these things, and the freedom of decision you have when you build things, all these building blocks. You have to be creative in how you compose them, and there's always different trade-offs that you have to consider. While this is daunting, it is also very rewarding because you are sort of free and creative to come up with solutions. You mostly just get a vague end goal of how to get somewhere, and then it's up to you and your creativity to make of what you have with the tools and building blocks that you have. And finally, why is it paid so well? Why is there so much money? Well, I don't really know why that's the case. Maybe it's because actual results are really important. Maybe it's because it's quite nerdy sometimes. The problems can be very abstract, and fixing problems sometimes requires you to understand the underlying technology really well and have a mental model of it that is fairly accurate in your head, and then fix the problem in your head and then find out where you have to do the small change in the real code to have things working. It's like knowing that there is a house, but the water supply in the bathroom, in the third bathroom, the second floor, doesn't really work too well. To really fix this, you have to understand the whole plumbing of the house and how the wires and pipes, what they do, and how all the different systems work with each other. And then once you know this, you know that there is maybe this one valve somewhere, or maybe there's an electricity supply to some valve somewhere, and you just have to do a minor change there. You have to maybe fix something or toggle the switch or something, but you're only able to do this really sparse and minor change because you have a good mental model of how everything works. And finally, why you should learn it and make it your life mission to program for 30 hours, 8 hours a day. Why should you do that? Well, it's also because it's egalitarian. For example, I studied business administration, and to really get somewhere, for example, the big companies, McKinsey, and so on and so forth, you have to study not only extremely hard and do their case studies when you apply, but you also have to have perfect grades all the way through. And so if you don't have those perfect grades when you're in university or something, or at the end of university, or even in the beginning, because your high school grades and whatnot else is not up to par, you're pretty much out. With coding, on the other hand, you can pay a lot of money for a bootcamp, like 8,000 euros for a 2-month bootcamp, and you can learn everything. You can do this crash course, and at the end of that time you can land an entry-level job and get paid fairly well. And if you're already programming, you can study really hard to apply for Google and go through the rigorous interviewing process, but they don't really mind that much what your grades are and so on and so forth. It's more so important that you study for the interview, which can be compared to a really difficult university exam. And you don't even need to go to a coding bootcamp. You can do it like I did. You can just learn programming on your own and pick some project that you're passionate about and work on that and network and do whatever it takes to get a job. And once you do get a job, you will realize that a lot of your colleagues, most of your colleagues actually, have not studied computer science. They have actually done very similar things in terms of doing something completely else and then learning programming on themselves and finding a job. So for other things, you need to study really hard. For medicine, you need to study so many years, and you have grueling working conditions and all that stuff to be paid a fair amount and be respected. Same goes for becoming a lawyer. You have to study so much and work really hard. But with programming, you can pick it up and learn it, and you can get a reasonably good payoff from the investment that you put into it. And that is why I would say it's like arbitrage, because you don't have to go through years and years of school to become productive. And it's not like it's a terrible job. It's quite nice. It's intellectually stimulating, it's creative, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, the great trap many people fall into is that they think that programming is like, you really have to enjoy it, you really have to like it in order to become successful. You can't just learn the bare minimum and then expect to become rich. But all things considered, I think it's a great skill to learn, and it's pretty nice how things are. Well, I hope you're gonna learn programming now after you watch this video, or that you appreciate this video if you already can do programming, and that you fully agree with me. If you don't agree with me, feel free to leave a comment. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.